Molweni, Sanibonani, Dumelang, and welcome to our podcast. I am your host, Kululwa Motwa, and this is Property Market Moves. Now, if you are playing in the property sector, you have an interest in property as an investment class, or you are studying towards property, now this is the podcast for you because we are going to talk all things property. Okay, now this is our first episode.
Well done.
Yes. And of course, for the first episode, we are hosting the President of SAIBPP. Some of you may know her as the Hustle Queen. Mm-hmm. She has a few business interests in facilities management, in signage and branding, in solar.
Hey.
She does it all. No wonder she's called the Hustle Queen. Miss Fundi Mazibuko,
Yes,
how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. I think, first of all, congrats to you and your team for pulling this off. I think it's so amazing. Exciting. I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. I mean, all things property.
Yep.
And the industry is ready to have educational content, information, inspiration. And when we speak to people who have been in the market for many, many years, inspiring the up and coming, as the president of SAIBPP, what does that mean for you?
Access to information. Access to information, because a lot of the topics that I know you're going to be tackling are around being informative, being that platform, that go-to platform. And I think our industry needs that, especially the young ones that are coming in and they don't know where to start, how to start, who to speak to, or what are the trends, what's happening, what's hot in the market. So I think for me, it says we are definitely the voice of the industry, and we are well positioned to be the voice of the industry, because we have the know-how, we have the network, we have the constituency that we're representing. So I think this is only the beginning.
All right. So, I mean, you can see I'm so excited. I just jumped in. Now let's come back.
Yeah.
Fundi Mazibuko. Who is she? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background? How did you get to be in the property sector? And SAIBPP.
SAIBPP. So Fundi Mazibuko is a young girl who grew up, well, not a girl anymore, but used to be, grew up in Katlehong, was born and raised in Katlehong. I'm a Joburger through and through. I grew up in an environment where now I know that my mom was a property practitioner, right?
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine? We just did not know. So I grew up in an environment where my mom was working hard, single. We didn't have a father figure around. And as we grew up, we had umkuku,
The
and
back
we had
rooms.
tenants, the back rooms, not as modern, but yes, the back rooms. And we didn't know that we had tenants, and my mom was a landlord, And now that I think over the years I've been in property, I'm now like, oh, wow, that's where the seed was planted. We just did not know. But how I came into property, Mutsing, I started at Mutsing, and Mutsing with Parito had a program that they had to recruit and employ young black females, so that there's that property pool. And you'll see, I think, in a lot of things that we do at SAIBPP, even today, we still are trying to build that property talent pool within the industry. So I came in as a trainee at Westgate Shopping Center, and I think 8 months into the role, I was appointed a GM for Tanzania City. Which was one of the achievements that I count myself blessed to have had. From Tanzania City, I came back and I was a portfolio manager. And really, the rest is history, But being at SAIBPP, I think I've always had that advocacy spirit. You know, I was part of Women's Property Network, WPN.
Yeah.
Later on, when I was at SAIBPP, I spearheaded the Women's Forum because SAIBPP never used to have the Women's Forum or women specific issues and focus. I spearheaded that. And of course, today I'm the president, but I know that I'm stepping on shoulders of giants, you know, because there are people who even sat around the table one day and said, let's start SAIBPP,
Sure.
which is what we know it to be today, to be the voice of the voiceless, to be the ones who influence government in how this industry do eventually transform. I think we still are nowhere near where we want to be. But yeah, I think this in itself is a step in the right direction, and I'm quite excited.
Sure. So if we go into SAIBPP, and I mean, you've touched on your why, right? In getting into SAIBPP, being the voice, you know, of the voiceless. And we need so much more of that, you know, now more than ever, actually. I think when we look back to the times of the struggle, we think that we are no longer in it.
Yeah.
So SAIBPP, why SAIBPP for you? What does SAIBPP represent in terms of, you know, the shaping the future that you would like to see?
I think for the longest time, and even now, we know that property is still very much in the hands of the white people, you know. And I think for me, SAIBPP is that one voice that is always advocating for Black people to have access to land, access to property. We still now even know today that we don't have a lot of Black owned and managed facilities management companies, Black owned and managed property management companies, developers, you know. So I think SAIBPP is well positioned to be able to advocate for such change in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's been hard. It's been a journey. I mean, for us even today to still be sitting and talking about transformation goes to show that we are still not close to achieving the goals that we would ideally want to see. Yeah.
And if we go into those challenges, you know, what are the biggest stumbling blocks to seeing this inclusivity that we would like to see of Black people in the property sector?
Access to finance remains at the top of the list. I think we know that for you to be a developer, you need funding. For you to have a sustainable business, you need funding. So access to funding remains at the top of the list. And you would remember that last year at SAIBPP, we did launch the funding directory as one of the ways to circumvent that challenge. One of the other challenges that we still face is clients not paying, government not paying invoices for businesses. We've seen we're dealing with the construction mafia. So now we're dealing with the bad buildings, you know, that are burning in the city. But in the main, the bulk of the people that are once again are affected in all those scenarios are Black players, are Black professionals. So those remain at the top of our list. You'd know that this year we are planning to have our convention, and the theme is leveling the playing field. Many years later into democracy, the field is still not leveled. We still have a long way to go.
So if we jump onto that, what does a leveled playing field look like? You know, how will we know to say, okay, now the field is level, or at least, you know, somewhat.
Yes.
What would that look like, having a leveled playing field?
It's multi-layered, right? That looks like having a lot of the Black property practitioners or youth employed. We have a lot of unemployment in the country. We have a lot of Black graduates that are still not employed. We still have a few property developers, formidable players that are Black in the industry. We've seen the stories of Billion Group. We've seen what happened to Delta. Whilst there are different levels or stories in the story, but we also know that government has not been paying them. We also know that their downfall is not because they were bad operators. So that, once again, goes to show that we need to continue making the noise. We need to continue trying to influence policies. And a leveled playing field means we then are on equal footing.
Yeah.
Which we are not at this stage. We know that the decision makers are still very much white. Yeah, and not females either. Because that's also our challenge. You know, as a Black female, you are trying to compete on a level field with Black men and Black and white males.
Yeah.
But you are a Black female, and therefore your burden is twice as much, you know. So I think for us who want to see a level field showing, seeing more Black faces on boards, seeing more Black females on boards, seeing more Black female developers, and shopping center owners, you know. I mean, we know, I don't know any Black female, unfortunately, who even own a shopping center as I speak to you. Sure. Maybe they are, but I don't know any at this stage.
And or even a CEO, of a corporate, you know, that owns, you know, those shopping centers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I stumbled upon a video a couple of days back. I think DJ Sbu was talking about wealth, right? Generational wealth. And one of the things that he said, which, you know, I've been battling with since, as he spoke about, you know, buying property. He says, how do you call yourself an African when you don't even own a piece
of the land.
Africa? Yeah, you don't even own a piece of South Africa. And that, for many Black people, is a reality all these years. I mean, I found that troubling, really. That
absolutely. And you must know that the gap is widening because property is getting more and more expensive. I'm sure you and I, if we were to look at a small unit, you can't spend less than $1 million. But in a country where masses are not employed, they can't even afford that. So that gap is widening day in, day out. So whilst I think we are Africans and we believe that we rightfully deserve a piece of this land, a piece of the cake, it's the reality is not like that.
It's an illusion for many.
Yeah.
So if we circle back to your mom, you know, who had then the back rooms or the backyards, because we know that there are some programs where we're now starting to realize that
the value,
that economy, right?
Exists,
there's value in it.
Yeah.
How do we make it thrive? What lessons, you know, did you take from that? And when you look back, you know, what do you see in you, having been influenced, you know, by being raised, I guess, by such a strong woman?
I think the biggest lesson is sometimes starting where you are. And a lot of the time we are at fault at hoping that there's a Messiah. There's someone who's coming to save us. There's someone, the government's going to do it for us. And I think the lesson with that is that if you happen to have a piece of land, use it. Use it because a lot of us come from somewhere. You know, either a township, either the rural areas, but there is somewhere where you come from. And if you are able to take that piece of land and make sure that you benefit from that, either you have your own backroom structure, and there are a lot of initiatives to date that are trying to help people build and even fund them to make that dream a reality. And I think we need to go back to Vukuzenzele, literally. because at this rate, we know that no one's coming to save us. No one's coming with the solutions. We are the solutions. We need to wake up and do it for ourselves. And I think for me, that's what I've learned from that experience. And it's inspiring to see when you go to the townships, there are a lot more people now who are realizing that there's value in their properties. I know that for the longest time, the challenge that people had was that they were not the rightful owners of the land.
Yes.
And you'd remember there's an initiative that was done by JPC,
Yeah.
which was land regularization, to give people the title deed. So that then allows them to even go to the bank and then borrow against that property. And that information is out there. People need to make sure that they are knowledgeable. They find out how they can access those opportunities, the funding that exists, and do it for themselves.
Sure. This reminds me, I think there is, in the Eastern Cape, when you drive past, one of the small towns, you see, a board, iti asimanga khulumente siyaqhuba. And I think that's very important, right? That we also are not sitting by the river waiting for someone to carry us in, because we know that in the fountain, this we must be ready to take up opportunities.
We need to, absolutely. And I mean, if there's anything now that we are going towards the elections, I do want to encourage all the young people that are eligible to vote to go vote, because that's when you start to participate in the solution. It's all good and all for us to sit back and complain and say, the government is bad, government's not delivering, white people are not helping us. We need to stand up and do it for ourselves. So I also want to take this opportunity to encourage everybody to go and vote, because your voice does matter. If you want to see change, this is your time. And this is the time that you need to speak up and not just sit around and complain when you are crying with your family. I think we need to.
And from a cyber perspective, how would you like to see, our communities, the sector broadly show up for transformation?
I think for the longest time, maybe as well as the Black community, we've always wanted to be empowered by other people. Are you empowering Black people in your own company, in your own small circles? Are you buying from